Hi, I'm John, and today we have something from Atlas to take a look at, so let's head over to the workbench. So here's what we're looking at today. This is an Atlas Trainkids glow-in-the-dark passenger train set. Atlas has a dedicated website for Trainkids products like this at atlastrainkids.com. You can find this train set there for $109.95. Atlas also manufactures all kinds of add-ons and additional stuff. I'll show you some of that stuff in our review here today, but your best bet would be to go over to atlastrainkids.com and see if they have what you're looking for. So here's what comes in the box. We have 2 locomotives. One of them is powered, and we have 3 passenger cars. One of those passenger cars is what holds the batteries, so it's a battery car. We have the remote down here, and then some track that it comes with so that you can run this thing. Also included is the owner's manual, and in this owner's manual, it has information about how to use the toy, and I'm talking about things like installing your batteries into the remote. There's something here about installing the batteries into the battery car, how the remote works. There's a way actually to run 2 trains on the same layout, which is the same as the original Trainkids Acela set that we showed on this channel, I don't know, a couple years ago, maybe a few years ago. So let's take a closer look. I'm going to say first things first here, because you need to know this. There's a couple ways to tell, but the most obvious way to tell which one of these sets is the battery car and the locomotive is because they're attached and they don't really come apart. These models use a magnetic coupling system, which I'll show you in a second, but before I do, I just wanted to point that out. The other thing you can do to tell which one of these is the powered locomotive is it has this big square on top. So that's what it looks like, though. It's pretty cool. I don't think this is a super accurate, prototypically model of an Acela train. Well, obviously it isn't, because the real one doesn't glow in the dark, right? But one of the really cool things about these models is that they can run on a regular HO scale standard gauge track. So if you have kids at your club, for example, you can give them one of these and they can run it with a remote that's, similar to what they would use for using a DCC train, and they can learn about pushing buttons to turn the lights on and off and the bells on and off and such. So anyway, let's take a closer look at the other cars real quick. So I mentioned about the magnetic couplers. That's what this is. And you can see that the passenger car here also has one, and when I get them close, they couple up. And they actually hold really well. So basically what I have here is the 3 unpowered pieces all together. And really there's not a whole lot to look at in terms of detail and such on this. Something else I should mention is that the cars are numbered on the top. The battery car carries the number 1, and then the 2 unpowered cars carry the numbers 2 and 3, respectively. So what we really need to do is install the batteries and then set up the track and then show you what it looks like, because that's the fun part. While we're at it, I'm going to show you how easy it is to put the snap track together. It's a lot like Unitrack, where it has the road bed included and all of this stuff glows in the dark. This is going to be a lot of fun, especially for kids. But that's how it goes on. It comes with 4 straight pieces and enough curves to create a fairly big oval. Also available are track expansion kits, like this figure 8. They also make glow-in-the-dark turnouts. Then they also offer a 6-piece 9-inch straight track pack, a full 18-inch radius curve, and then a 2-pack. These are actually re-railers. And just briefly, while we're on the topic of track, this is Kato Unitrack, and you can see that the battery operated pieces roll, they fit just fine on that. And the other ones are up here. So the gauge of this track, it's the same. This is completely made out of plastic. So this is really a dead rail, unpowered rail train, which makes it pretty cool because you don't have to clean any track, and it's guaranteed as long as the batteries are good to operate. And one of the most important things when you're dealing with something like this, where you're trying to introduce kids to a hobby like model railroading, is it has to work, right? Because if it doesn't work, it's not fun. And since we're looking at this view, I should also point out, as I mentioned a second ago, 1, 2, and 3 printed on the tops of the cars. The battery car is number 1 always. If you look, you'll notice that it has a switch here, and it's labeled A and B. The reason for that is you can run 2 of these trains on the same track because they use different frequencies. So what you would do is you'd set one up and put it on A. There's a corresponding switch on the remote on the back, which is either A or B. So what you do is you set the train to A, and then just make sure that the remote is set to A, and then you would set up your other train, put it on frequency B, and then for the second train, you'd switch your remote to frequency B. Now you can run the 2 trains together at the same time on the same track. We only have one that we're going to test, so I'll just leave it on frequency A. As I was mentioning a second ago, it uses batteries, and I'm going to use a little screwdriver to take the battery compartment off the battery car. And it's one of these things where, I'll show you once I get it out. It's one of these things where it has a little battery box. Hello. Here it comes. It has a little battery box, kind of like your LED flashlights have. And you put two AA batteries on this side, 2 AA batteries on that side, and then plug it back in. It's not very instructive showing you the batteries being loaded, but whatever. We're in this for the long haul here, so just pay attention to what direction the batteries are supposed to face. Insert it back in. Screw it back down. I mean, pretty straightforward stuff, and this is all in the user's manual. If you look very carefully on the rear wheels of the locomotive, the powered locomotive, it has little rubber traction tires, and also included in the package is 2 spare traction tires that you can put on after these wear out. Now here's something. The remote uses AAA batteries, so we need AA for the train and AAA for the remote. I don't know about you, but I would like it if they all used the same size of battery. You don't have to worry about having 2 different sizes, but whatever. It is what it is. We should be ready for action now. So just for the purpose of this demonstration, I've set it up with just the battery car and the back locomotive. The other 2 cars are here off to the side, just because they won't fit on this short test track that I created. So there's a little button on the locomotive here that you push down. That powers it on. Then there's a little button on the remote that turns the lights on and off. See how the light's coming on and off right here? And if you listen, it has a horn, a bell, and
welcome aboard Trainkids Glowing Express.
Pretty cool. Could you imagine being a kid getting this? I would have been so excited. Then on the remote, it has basically 3 speeds, and you increment the speeds by pushing it up or pushing it down. I don't have enough track set up here to make it go really fast, so I'm just going to make it go slow forward and then slow backwards. So let me turn the light on. Then we'll give it a little.
Welcome aboard Trainkids Glowing Express.
And Here we go. All right, that's as much track as I have. Sorry. We'll show it running on a big track later on. All right, then guess what? Now, I can't emphasize enough how cool this is for a kid, because especially if you're trying to introduce a little kid to model railroading, this is your introduction to DCC. Sound, lights, and a remote control. How cool is that? I've set this up in my office just on the floor with the track that it comes with. Turned on the light. We're going to do a...
Welcome aboard, Trainkids Glowing Express.
Pulling out of the station. So that's the regular speed on the first click. This is the second speed. It's a little bit faster. And you know, Acela is a high-speed train, so we have one more click available to us. Here it goes. Hours of fun, folks. Now I'm going to slow it down by clicking the down arrow on the remote. And I'll slow it down one more time. I'm doing this by clicking the down arrow on the remote. And we're going to come into the station here. And come to a stop in the station. Now we're going to go back to where we came from. I'm just going to turn the light off in the lead unit there. And look, now we can go the other direction. There's no light in the trailing unit, but that's okay. We're just simulating push-pull mode here. And it has all three speeds in this direction as well. If there's an emergency, you can use that stop button that I was using earlier, and it just turns the whole thing off. All right, so it's later now, and I know this is hard to see, but we're going to give this a shot because it's pretty cool. Something I didn't realize is that the light on the locomotive actually charges the track. So it regenerates the glow-in-the-dark status really well. Let's take a look and see. There's our locomotive getting ready to leave the station.
Welcome aboard, Trainkids Glowing Express.
And here we go. Can you see that? The locomotive is actually making the tracks glow in the dark even more. This is pretty cool. I can imagine if I had this when I was a kid. I'm going to do something to the camera to make it a little bit more obvious. How's that? You may recall, if you've been watching this channel for a long time, that I did a product spotlight on the original Atlas Trainkids Acela Amtrak kit. And it was very similar to this one, but it didn't glow in the dark. So what Atlas has done by maintaining the same features and the simplicity of operation, but also adding this sort of feature of it glowing in the dark, is really cool. Something else that I'm really happy about, and I didn't realize it when I opened the box, is that the light on the locomotive recharges the glow-in-the-dark track. That's really cool, because when I was a kid, we had glow-in-the-dark stuff. We'd have to turn the lights back on every few minutes because it would wear off. Well, this won't wear off as long as you're running the train. So that's a great idea. Keep it coming, Atlas. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.